What's up, YouTube? This is just a short video on what things cost in Peru. By now you should know I'm in Peru. Most of the time I'm in Guatemala or Mexico or El Salvador, and sometimes I'm in Honduras. But right now I'm in Peru, and I want to give you an idea of what things cost. I'll start off with kind of a nice apartment. You can get a nice apartment kind of close to Miraflores for like 350 USD or $350. They're like 1,000 soles in that range, 1,000, 1,200. The thing about that, here's the problem. I'm not recommending it, but you're in a nice part of town. They're affordable if that's what you're looking for 300, 350. But the problem is you're going to have first and last deposit. You may have to have a fiador, and you may have to prove your income source, like a job, things like that. See, if you fly in and no one really knows you, and you don't even have residency, it's kind of hard to get the nicer apartments. It's partly why I always suggest people renting rooms or things like that, because it can be way easier to get into. You just pay, what the room value is, and that's it. No first and last or deposit or anything like that. The reason I mention all that is because even if you can afford to pay that, most of the time when you're in other countries, it's very unlikely you'll get your deposit back. My experience has been really good in Guatemala. I've gotten 3 deposits back. I've gotten some back in the Philippines, but mostly I didn't. And if it's a really cheap place, you don't really care. But if it's a much nicer place and you spend $1,000 and all that, and you don't get it back, it can piss you off. So I'm not really suggesting one way or the other, but it's partly why I get low end places where you don't have to have a deposit. So rooms cost you $100 or less or more. It just depends where the location is. Where I'm at, it's about $90 or 300 soles a month. Um, Utilities. A lot of times, if you don't have residency, you can't get them. But most of the time, you can get them set up so you're just paying your part of other people. So that's what I suggest. You can't always do that, but if you can't do that or you don't want to do that, you can get internet on your phone and then just use your phone to put it on your computer. I don't want to get into that. I forget what the name is for that, but you can just set your laptop up to be used right on your phone. Um, but internet, what I got on my phone was about 60 soles a month, which is I think about $30 or 20 or $30. You can get quite a few gigs for that. As comparable to Guatemala, you can get 10 gigs, 10 to 12 gigs, and it can be quite expensive, 50 or 60 or $70. Here, it's quite a bit cheaper in that regard. Um, Another thing for costs is another nice thing about getting a room. All that stuff, like the electric bill, all that kind of jazz, is all in one package, so you don't really have to worry about it. All I do is share Wi-Fi, so it works out great for me. But if you get an apartment, that's one of the downsides. You're going to have a feud, or you might have to show a contract that you have a job because people don't know you. And one thing here in Peru, it used to be easy to open a bank account without residency, but now you more or less have to have it. So you may or may not have to use your bank account to pay your rent, but generally speaking, you can just do all cash here. But that's one of the downsides is having to put up all that money to get an apartment, then having to have a feudor. Someone's going to guarantee you pay the money. Most people will not be your feudor. It's again another reason I don't care for the more expensive apartments. And because other Peruvians know it's a pain in the neck, that's why they charge you a lot and kind of, I don't want to say gouge you, but they can take advantage of you because they know you don't have all that stuff, so they'll charge you quite a lot of more money to get around all that. But you get really great places kind of close to Miraflores. You'll be in a nice part of town for 200 to 300, but for 350 easy. Um, it won't be luxury living, but you'll have your own private bathroom and all that, and you live in a nice part of town. What's the cost to go out to eat? Well, here in my barrio, it's like 750 to 8 soles to maybe 12 tops. That's like a set meal where you get soup, and then you get your main dish. Now I like chicken and rice. But they have other things like fish and like pork, things like that. Mostly I get chicken. I like chicken and rice. It's one thing I like here is I really like the food. It's so different than Guatemala. Sorry about all that movement there. So if you're in kind of this area, it'll cost you 7.58 for a set meal, maybe 9. If you're in Miraflores, or the nicer part of town, where mostly, but not all, but most of the tourists go, it will cost you from 12, let's say 12 to, let's say 30. Now things can cost a lot more and they can cost a little bit less, but nice part of town for a set meal, it's gonna cost you 15 to 30, let's say. Um, in El Centro, it can be a little bit cheaper, but not a lot. But a set meal can cost you like 8 to 12. And the nicer places are going to cost 20 to 30, 30 soles. Drinks are kind of expensive compared to Guatemala. Like drinks here can be like 2 for 1 can be, I think, 15. I think I saw 15 or 25 soles. It's to me kind of expensive, but going out to drink with your friends can be expensive. Um, Getting like a beer, like I got a pint of beer. It's Cusqueño. It's Trigo. Oops. Anyways, it's about a pint. It's about 5 or 6. It's 6 actually. They charge me 6 soles plus a deposit, but they don't charge me the deposit anymore. But anyways, that's about $2 for a pint of beer. Now this beer is actually quite good beer compared to Guatemala. So if you enjoy beer, they have all the artisanal beer here too. Some of it's kind of affordable, but at the store it'll cost you up to like 20 soles for just one bottle of beer, 12 ounces of beer. Now again, that's artisanal beer. That's some of the imported beer, but they have artisanal beer that's made here locally and imported, and they have quite a good selection of beers and wines. I've seen like Malbecs for I thought let's say 10 or 12 bucks a bottle. It seems kind of expensive to me compared to Guatemala, but again, as I said in my other videos, EVA is 18%, so that's what's driving up the cost of a lot of things here. But Peru has its own Malbec wine. I like that, and I get it from time to time. So a decent bottle of wine can cost up to $20. It's not as affordable as say Central America, like in Guatemala. Junk food, of course, I don't eat a lot of it, but I do eat it from time to time. Uh, like a Snickers bar will cost you about $1. Here, chips like Doritos and potato chips are quite a bit cheaper than Guatemala, and the quality, I don't eat them that much, but I have a little bit. The quality is good quality potato chips. What happened in Guatemala is some of the potato chips, they're not really potato chips, like 50% potato and 50% soy product or something. It's some kind of weird combination like that. So here you get good old-fashioned junk food just like you would in the States. Um, excuse me. Now getting sandwiches here can be a bargain. I get sandwiches like a croissant with chicken in it for 5 soles. Then I get kind of a regular, not a croissant, but like regular bits, not regular bread, but more like a bun with uh, chicken and stuff like that. It's about 7 or 8 soles. So for 2 to 2.50, you can get a really nice sandwich. And here, I don't know why, but here in Peru, they're really good. I mean, they're really fantastic. They're real filling. They're really cheap. As far as cheap goes, you can buy croissants with ham in them for 1 sole, which is pretty cheap. You can buy empanadas where I live for 2.50. You know, in the nicer part of town, it'll be 3 or 3.50 for an empanada. Um, so let's say three, that's $1. Like 1 sole for like it's like a kind of like a croissant with a little bit of ham in it. That's like 1 sole, which is about 30 cents, I think. So 35 cents. So like if you want to, you know, live on bread like our ancestors used to do in the United States, you can live on bread pretty cheap here. Um, so those are set meals. Taxis, you can go. Well, it's hard to get a taxi to get them cheap, but if you're willing to bargain with them, you can go all over for like 12 to 15 soles. Now, in the guidebook and a lot of other places, they'll tell you it's like 20 or 30. People pay that, but if you bargain with them, you can get them for 10 to 12. I could go where I live, which is way on the edge of town, for 10 to 12 soles right into Miraflores. Usually they don't want to, but you got to kind of bargain with them. Um, so taxis can be kind of expensive, but they're not so expensive even compared to Guatemala. To me, taxis in Mexico are much cheaper. And anyways, that's just that. I take local buses into my school, which is solely and a half or solely and three quarters or 70 cents, 170 or 150. It just depends on the dude or the dudette. That's one thing that's different here. On the buses, the conductors a lot of times are ladies, so uh, usually they charge you 150 to 170. You can go most places for under 2 soles on the bus. I live on the edge of town, and you can go into El Centro or Miraflores for like, let's say, under two. That's like 60 cents tops. Um, so for a couple bucks, you can get to your school and back. That's what I do, just on the bus. Or if you want to take a taxi, it's going to run you 12 to 15. But you will have to bargain with them, and a lot of them won't take you for that because there's too many other tourists they can get. So you got to get good at taking buses so you don't pay all those taxi fees. Let's see, I covered that. I don't really drink in a bar, but from what I've seen, it can be 15 to 30 soles for two drinks. Those are the drink specials too. So it's quite a bit like the U.S. It can be quite expensive if you want to go out on dates and things like that. Eating out at like in the mall, like in the fast food areas, that's about 15 to 20 soles. That'll cover you like from fried chicken to local food to a lot of international food. Like there's a lot of Asians here, so there's a lot of Japanese and Korean and sushi type bars and stuff like that here. So that's at the low end. I'm talking like 15 to 20 soles. So 20 soles would be like about $7. I think about $7. Um, Getting a coffee at one of the big chains like Starbucks is like 7 or 8.50. So that's like a little over $2 for just a coffee drink. Now I've never experienced like the more expensive drinks because I don't drink that. I just drink regular coffee. But it's basically at Starbucks, it's U.S. prices all the way. Um, there are not as many coffee chains here as compared to Guatemala, but there's places you can get coffee for 450 or 550 soles, and it's not bad at all. A lot of times for like 9 or 10 soles, you can get a sandwich and coffee at some of these smaller coffee shops. They're all over the place, so you just have to find one you like and go there. Um, so you can get a coffee and sandwich in the morning. They don't really have breakfast like they do in Mexico or Guatemala. It's usually just a piece of bread and a coffee or a sandwich and coffee or something like that. So that's what that costs. My school is $90 a month, which is 315 soles, maybe a little over $90, $95, something like that. But it's 300 soles. Um, my room costs 300 soles, so again $90. So that's what things can run you for that. So basically, you have quite a few prices are close to the U.S. price. Cars are going to be kind of expensive here because of EVA. Buses are fairly affordable compared to anywhere, even the U.S. or Europe. They're not as crowded as, say, Guatemala. There is quite a bit of grab. Like I was on the bus and some guy grabbed this lady's phone, so that you have to be aware if you use the buses here. There's a lot of petty crime here. I haven't noticed a lot of violent crime, but there is a lot of petty crime. That happens pretty frequently too. So if you take the bus, put everything in a backpack and just be aware that if you have your phone out, people will grab it, especially if you have expensive jewelry on. Don't wear expensive jewelry on the bus. But those are what things cost here in Peru in March 7th, 2019. So just a heads up on that. If you happen to be coming down and you want any kind of consulting service, just leave a message, just private message me or leave a message. And I'll tell you where you can contact me. But anyways, that's just my experience of what things cost right now. Right now, I'm not really cooking food or anything like I normally do. Food here is actually pretty good, so I like it. I just eat out for my meals. Anyways, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you.